Good morning, my friends. Hello, Clara. Hey, Jeremiah. Quiet morning today. Quiet morning today. How's everybody doing? I'm okay with that. I'm tired. I'm tired. And today and tomorrow are going to be long days too. So tomorrow might be even longer because everyone's going to be preparing for another winter storm. Yeah. And I'm falling behind. If I'm being honest, I'm falling behind. Mostly because I hit a point where my brain can't do it anymore and I need to take a break. But I'm falling behind because of it. So I'm glad we're coming on the weekend because I'm going to have to do some major catch up. Yeah, just for the East Coast, it's like coming from the ocean and meeting up with the cold air, and it's gonna hit the coast. I just wish I knew how to get the word out about all of these candidates so more people could see their stuff. I can't advertise, like I can't pay advertise these things because of what they are. Terrified but choosing sarcasm and humor. Facts. Hey Kiva, you have a meeting in about 30 minutes, but you're here for now? Heck yeah. Hey Kia. You know, there will be times where that will be possible. This is just not one of them. The Georgia thing has me genuinely terrified. We will have primaries. But we will have midterms. Nothing about this will change any of that. Taking voting records from 2020 isn't going to change anything for now. Again, he has no authority over how Georgia runs its elections. All he's doing is wasting a lot of money. Which, what's new, right? Got my petty on a leash today and coffee in my cup. Let's do this. There you go. I didn't think we'd be federally occupied. Actually, I believed that way more than that's not surprising at all. Those kind of things, unfortunately, are pretty normal. But again, we had elections during the Civil War. Elections are going to happen. We'll have to see what happens during this whole process, and maybe ideas will change and realities will be different, but we will have elections. There was a shooting in Canada. Amy Klobuchar officially announced her campaign for Minnesota governor. Nice. I was in such a mood yesterday, I even annoyed myself. That's fair. In the Cree First Nation community in northern Quebec. Oh boy. Appreciate your optimism. I would say it's less optimism and more reality. But if we're being fair, I don't have a ton of optimism. I don't see anything that's going on in this country as good per se. I just won't let something that I have no real control over right now change what I do right now. We will have elections, and all I can do is try and push as many people to vote as possible and try and fight this idea that it won't happen, because what you're going to see is a lot of people say it's not going to happen, so why vote at all? Which will make the numbers even smaller, which will make it less likely that anything that we want to get done will get done. There's nothing going on in this country in like from a federal level that is making me feel confident or optimistic. I understand that it's hard. Trust me. Trust me. There is a part of me that is sitting here going, I'm doing 17 interviews this week. Will anything change? Thank you, Summer. Good morning, Shelby. I mean, by the time the elections happen, I could interview 300-400 people. And there is a part of me that worries that people still won't show up for their primaries and people will complain about their choices. It's just a reality. I mean, it doesn't change that what I'm doing is right. And it needs to happen. The tank lady, Elizabeth. Taking care of myself as much as I can, Summer. I appreciate it. Here's the reality of the situation. If I can, well, she's the only tank lady, so it's got to be Elizabeth. Right now, it's just me. Because it's all because I'm not making much doing this. So I've got a choice. I either do what needs to get done, I mean, in the end, I'm hoping that this whole process will make this podcast grow enough that I can get some help. That will be what will keep me from burning out, is the ability to get help. I mean, the fact is right now I'm recording, editing, doing social media. I have some help on contacting people, which has helped so much. Ash and Rosa are the only reason that I'm able to do what I'm doing at all. Personally, I know 2 people that have been abducted and 4 who've been beaten. Never ever thought I'd be able to say that. Still trying to grip on optimism. They can't win. It won't make you feel better, Anna, probably. But know that the reason that you're seeing what's happening is because progress is happening. And they are trying to prevent progress from happening. It's always going to hurt. It can be your contribution to the cause. I do appreciate that, Summer. And I'd be happy to talk about if there are ways that you can help. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was reading the letters from Birmingham jail that MLK Jr. wrote this morning. And it's caused my brain to really fire on all cylinders today about the need to stop relying on being comfortable, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. The reality is we're there's a lot of people that are saying things can't happen. There's a lot of people that are trying to slow things down. There are a lot of people that are more worried about a church service being disrupted than they are about the fact that people are dying on the streets. And it just made me realize what point in history we're in. And if anything, it's given me the knowledge that what I'm doing is something that needs to happen. But that doesn't mean that I don't sometimes worry that it's for naught. Good morning, Heidi. Hey, Maureen. Hey, Rosa. 2 right-wing activists are in Minneapolis today for their grift content again. They found Mercado Media's home this morning, and he has to move now. Oh, fun. Appreciate everyone keeping us in the news and fighting all the other fights that we can't partake in right now. From the 2020 election. Yep. Sure was. Sure was. I think this is a reckoning of America's underbelly. We can't move forward until we recognize the evils this country holds on to. Sure. They want people to be scared and feel helpless. Yep. I know this isn't comforting. Yep. Yeah. I got you. And this is why I keep saying it. Watch the videos of the people running. That's something you guys can do. I say this again and again and again. Watch the videos of the that I am making and share them, comment on them, like them, but watch them all the way through and share them with people. Not only will that help those people running for office, but it will give you a little hope, because there are just some really good people running. There's some really good people running. Get a mute so you can get stuff ready for your meeting. No worries. I got you. I got you. Hey, Paige. Can't believe they're trying to make Alex look bad after video of him in week prior having. I 100% can believe that, Heidi, unfortunately. I 100% can believe that. Because this is exactly what they do to try and not take responsibility for what's going on. If it can be everyone else's fault, then it can never be their fault. That or they're going to AI something together. Yep, they do like using AI. And again, we keep saying that there needs to be regulation on AI. This administration will guaranteed cause regulation to happen. I've seen a lot of people talk about the other video that they're using, and they are saying that it is AI. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. But the reasonings they are giving seem valid that it is AI. If we're talking about the same video, that is. Got an ad for something that a survey. This ad beautiful. What kind of question is that? Sorry, Silver. Something shouldn't need to happen to warrant regulation. No, regulation should exist before it happens. That's the point. That's the point. 100%. Regulation should be happening before these kind of things happen. Which again is part of the problem. The GOP especially, but a lot of politicians, they are much more into the idea of putting band-aids on the end problem, but not looking at the wound and why the wound exists in the first place. Even if the video is real, it shows motive on their part. True. We're always reactionary instead of proactive. Yep. At least when it comes to the laws, for sure. Good morning, Kat. Technology and infrastructure too, I'd say at the very least. Yep. I've heard that other countries saw the immediate aftermath of Alex. Someone pointed out that we saw the gore of Kirk to garner sympathy of what's right, but not of Alex or Renee. Because they know it's bad. Sure. Yep. There's a lot going on. Hey, Laura. trying to remember what other stuff I saw that's going on in the world. I mean, we'll end up talking about a lot of it, but until we address the 1% issue, it will continue to go on. I mean, we definitely need to. I'm not sure it's an until that. I think addressing a lot of the issues also involve addressing the 1% issue, but I hear what you're saying. Until we address the ability of the wealthy to control what happens, yes, that I agree with. Until we take money out of politics. That's really what it is. Until we take money out of politics. It's hard to do anything else as long as money drives our politicians. Good morning, Alex. I've been reading more newspapers around the world because they seem to have good opinions in journalism that isn't as corrupt as many in our nation. That's fair. Take notice that the most brutal, deadly, and documented ones are Border Patrol. Yeah, I have noticed that. I have noticed that. Still wild to me that a group of men don't realize that they essentially tried to step foot on foreign soil without the correct documentation. The irony isn't lost. Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny is his response to the guy was like, just don't touch me. Just don't touch me. I'm going to have to take you down. And it's like, no, 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 no. You tried to barge onto foreign soil. You're in the wrong, dude. You would have been in a lot of trouble. I definitely take anything I see reported on mainstream media with a lot of grains of salt. Yep, as you should. I mean, you should take any report you see anywhere with a grain of salt at the beginning. Always. You should not trust any report implicitly. Shouldn't trust anything I say implicitly. I could be wrong. Scott could be wrong. Aaron Parnas could be wrong. Just as much as mainstream media. Part of me would have been interested to see how badly that would go for ICE if they tried to touch them. Yep. Tesla earnings fall 17%. Elon Musk sees robo-taxi expansion and huge CapEx as Model SX to end. Cap EX. Uh-huh. Everyone wants to be first, and in doing so, they aren't waiting or vetting the info before reporting it. Correct. I heard Scott is never wrong. That's what Laura. That's what Laura says. What's up, Scott? Huh? ICE isn't smart enough to know what the consulate is to begin with. True. It's true. Yeah, he was just about to. They were just about to walk in. Like, literally just walk in. It's like, dude, you don't just walk into a consulate. As a federal law enforcement agent, that's for sure. We don't trust the info we get from our news and government. How do we think the rest of the world feels and thinks about us? I saw an abduction video from Maine. Definitely not Border Patrol. Definitely a 47-day training. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're all bad and incompetent. Sorry, I've been MIA lately. News has been a lot. I totally understand, Laura. No problem whatsoever. I've already had multiple videos now removed from being recommended. So they're attacking my ability to make income on this app or on the other app, by the way. So that was fun. Woke up this morning and I had a bunch of gray boxes on my screen. Let's see. One of them was for, it was ridiculous, by the way. Unoriginal, low quality, or QR code content, which, by the way, none of that is true. On TikTok, that's so frustrating. Yep. So, I mean, to be fair, it doesn't surprise me. No, it didn't get bopped. It's just it basically removed the content from being on the FYP. I also got the thing that's like, we've noticed that you have not real views, so we've removed them. That's another thing that's going on out there too. Good morning, Susie. And again, it's not like I was making loads and loads of money, but excuses for not paying me. Yep. Oh, I know. I know. I completely understand. It's why I'm pushing to put so much content up on here. What does that even mean? So, when you're part of the creator rewards program, they have what's called authentic and unauthentic views. You only get paid for an authentic view. They don't ever explain what that means, but that's how we get paid. Can always push Truth Social. No, thank you. Making my way through them. Thank you, Susie. I really do appreciate that. More than you know. More than you know. Came across a MAGA live last night and holy shit, did it make my blood boil? Some woman from Texas and her crowd was disgusting. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Let's we just can leave it at that. It's a big old yep. But in the end, like I said, this is why I'm pushing my content on here so much more, because, and you know, if that one stops working, maybe I'll end up doing the purple app in here. I don't know. They've already had a massive increase in people that that uninstalled. By view, they mean people watching, not your opinions expressed on the video. That is what they say, Silver. Yes. That is what that is supposed to mean. Correct. It's not, doesn't have anything to do with my video, supposedly. Had a guy in plain clothes bang on my door yesterday, scared the shit out of me. Then realized we'd ordered internet installed. Maybe send an email first or call. Yeah. Yep. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, Anna. I'm hearing a lot more. Well, yeah, they're advertising on TikTok, Rosa. They're spending money to advertise. I'm not sure how good it is. I guess we'll have to see. Been any new developments with the FBI season Fulton County voting records? I have not heard any new information. Philip, no. Clock app dies. I think I'm just gonna let it. The older I get, the less I feel motivated to put my life online so much. That's fair. That's fair. Although that being said, I've met many, many amazing people because I'm online. So hey, Tanya. Hey, Garpu. Good morning. I need to work on some special content for members too. That might start next week. We'll see. Welcome back. I still write, but the social media stuff is just exhausting sometimes. And yes, some of the best people I know I've met online. How is it possible to have a camp that the only way a woman can graduate is to leave? Ridiculous how much they demonize unmarried women. Yep, it's true. I mean, some are moving their stuff over to a lot of different places, Kat. I mean, that's part of the problem, is people are moving all over the place. I've tried a lot of these apps and I'm just like, meh. I don't know. Yeah. Yep. No, I understand. That's one of the reasons I'm pushing here. And if things change, I'll push somewhere else. But for now, I'm pushing here. Kind of taking a break from blue sky. Too much screaming into the void. Are content creators still getting kicked off? Possibly, Scott. I'm just getting my stuff pretty much taken off the FYP. A lot are happening that right now. I'm literally getting my numbers just cut on things. So, but I'm sure some are just getting kicked off too. That's his life is everywhere online. I know that feeling. I did not make a post today, Scott. I was doing some stuff this morning. Hey, Jody. That made it so I could not finish it in time for live, before live. So it's going to come after. Hey, Lewis. When people are critical of those who are online. True. Any interviews today? Yep. 4 of them. Morning, Dee Dee. 4 of them today. Four today, 3 tomorrow. 3, I think, tomorrow. You're driving but listening. Appreciate that. Be safe. MAGA loves Star Wars. Don't see the... Yeah. The Weeknd. The Weeknd. You ready for snow this weekend? It'd be cool if we get it. Hey, Allie. Good mythical morning. So did we. So did we, Kia. They're thinking maybe like 5 to 7 inches. I'll believe that when I see it, but yeah, we heard about that, Anna. Yep. Well, good. Hope you do. You guys can have our snow. We didn't. Not where I live. Last I heard, this storm was supposed to miss Massachusetts. I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention. You can have any of my snow whenever you want it. No snow for us, but we're finally warming up a bit next week. Heck yeah. I'm so sick of the snow. Sincerely, a Michigander. Allie, Alibaba. That's a great name. I love that name. Such a good name. You did here in Wilmington. I just want some snow. I'll be okay if we don't get any more. It's fair. Sick of the cold. Signed, Floridians. Yeah. Floridians don't like cold. You guys, yeah. That's fair. Why? Because they are an incompetent, undertrained organization that has no need to exist. Oh, look, I'm not censored here. What a good time. Censored or... Oh, it's the captain. Okay. What's up, Captain? I was like, what? Here's to hoping this admin can't get their grubby mitts on YouTube. They're threatening the free press and trying to take control of the free flow of information. That's true. Yeah, I feel you, Captain. Good morning, Justice. I'll be cold March for democracy in DC, but it's worth it. Fair, Dave. Got myself a fresh Cuban sandwich and I'm watching the good stuff. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. All right. Feeling like it's time to bring some people up. Community people can come up. What's up, Scott?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we've had some sort of movement. As you know, we're heading towards a potential government shutdown. And I've looked into what the Democrats want. I think it's fairly moderate in its tone. It's really basically three things. They want to end the roving patrols by requiring warrants for them to go places. And require cooperation with state and local authorities. Secondly, they want to create a uniform code of conduct with the use of independent investigations to enforce that uniform code of conduct. Now, uniform code of conduct is exactly what every other federal agency operates under. One would have thought that long before they created ICE, they would have created this. I understand that they have a manual, but that has been completely ignored.
Yep.
And the Democrats are demanding a rewrite and the use of independent investigations to enforce it. Now, that's sort of what what you have when you have your, oh my gosh, it just flew out of my head. The people who do the investigations who Trump fired.
Oh,
The internal councils.
yeah.
Yeah. The internal councils that head up the agencies, and Trump fired them. They would require that they have that. And thirdly, which everybody has heard about, they want body cams and no more masks. So that's not a big ask by the Democrats, and there is reason to believe that Trump is, the Senate right now will not split off the ICE funding from the other five. There's six bills, and the Senate won't split off the ICE bill. The Democrats want it split off, but the Senate sort of cracked. Thune went to Schumer and said, "Why don't you talk with the president, and we'll do whatever he says to do." So, and Schumer is apparently talking to the president. Also, in another positive move at hopefully de-escalating a bit, Homan met with Walz. He met with the attorney general, and he met with the mayor. And he also, according to Senator Collins, ICE has ended all of their extractions in Maine. They've withdrawn that. So it appears that there is some sort of de-escalation going on. The devil is always in the details. We're going to have to wait and see just how far of the de-escalation we get, and whether the relatively modest Democratic proposals, which to me make sense. Again, you don't need roving patrols. You need to go on a patrol when you have a warrant to go somewhere, and that's not an administrative warrant. That's a judicial warrant. That you should be required to work with state and local government. That is the way federal agencies have always worked. They work with state and local government. That's not a big ask by the Democrats. Creating a uniform code of conduct, that's boilerplate. That's the way every federal agency operates under. And theoretically, I should be too. And again, the body cams and no face masks, well, the FBI doesn't wear face masks. The Secret Service doesn't wear face masks. This is all common sense stuff. And we'll see what happens.
Yep. I mean, hearing that Schumer is going to talk to the president honestly means very little to me. Mostly because I don't trust Schumer. Schumer is, in the grand scheme of things, Schumer's part of the problem. I know we don't have a choice at this moment because he's here for, 2 more years, no matter what. But 2.5 more years. But yeah, I mean,
he could be gone tomorrow. The Democratic caucus doesn't have to stick with their leader. There's no requirement that they do.
I understand that, and the only time I see that being a possibility of happening is after the midterms, and that's assuming people do what we need to do if we really want change. We already know there have been people that have called for Schumer to get replaced, and it just never makes it through because, again, in my mind, there's too many people in Congress right now that are just obsessed with the status quo and keeping things the way they've always been and doing things the way they've always been. And I think whether or not it's a good thing, that's a whole different conversation. But the reality is this administration has destroyed the status quo, and there is no bringing it back. And people need to stop trying to bring it back.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but you know what I've said about Schumer on countless times. But in this instance, I find it interesting that the Senate Republicans, who hold the majority, of course, the majority leader Thune, has really given quite a little bit of a crack here in their unified stance that they will not split up the 6 funding bills. They're not going to consider ICE separately. He is now given an opening saying, if you can get Trump on board, we'll be on board.
Yeah.
And that's a rather significant change from just a couple of days ago.
But here's the thing, and this goes to my general issue with that perspective. I hear what you're saying, and if the reality of ICE being able to function or not function was based on this bill, I would feel a lot better. But because they have funding from the big, disgusting, horrible bill, they're still funded. There's bits and pieces of ICE that may not be funded, but as a whole, they can keep doing what they're doing. And that's the part that's frustrating to me, is if we separate it out, we're not really doing anything. What's happening? What's getting fixed in this problem? It just,
Well,
I don't know.
I beg to differ with you. I just outlined what would be fixed in the problem. As for the funding, I totally agree with you. You cannot add that much money to any federal agency, not just ICE. You can't add multiples in 1 year to any federal agency and expect that money to be spent wisely. That's just impossible. Let's pick a benign agency, an agency everybody loves. Let's say you're hiring a gazillion government scientists. You're going to have waste and duplication of process in that if you fund in all that money and say, we've got to hire them all in the next 2 months. It's going to be wasteful. And I agree with you on the overall funding thing. But there's nothing we can do about that now. There's nothing the Democrats can do about that now. The big, beautiful bill passed. The money's there.
I know.
You know, so if we can get guardrails onto ICE, that's an improvement.
This goes back to the last time it shut down. I hear what you're saying, and if it happens, I think getting any guardrails obviously is a good thing. When the Democrats who decided to vote to end the filibuster, the first time it shut down, the agreement, quote unquote, that we got was that there would be a vote put forth. Well, we all knew the vote was BS. And I know all of us sat here and said, well, this will obviously make the Republicans look bad. So they're still going to suffer. Like, it's not actually a win for them. And I understand that. I just don't, like, again, if they can keep functioning, whether or not this ICE part of the bill passes, what does it matter? If everything else can keep running, except for that, and yet they still have money and they can still do it, I don't see any. My problem, and again, I could be wrong, but my problem is I don't see any what's the word? I don't what's the push for them to pass it if they don't need it? I guess is my question.
You know, another thing too, real quick, Scott, 'cause, when they do the funding for these things, you know, because they like to harken back to, oh, Obama and Biden and stuff like that. If you were to put in, we're gonna, you know, defund some of this, or we're gonna cut back the cost, you have to put in, quote unquote, the guardrails, because what part are they going to defund? Because I've seen people quoting, well, Obama, which again, this is like, dude, guys, this is like a decade ago, but you know, he instituted a policy to fund them more. And it's like, no, the funding for that was because, or was it Biden? I apologize. The funding for that was because the people who unalived during those times under their administration were because they didn't have enough facilities to hold people. They were crowded in the facilities. And so when they funded them more, it was to fund the facilities to make sure that people weren't getting unalived in those facilities due to overcrowding. So even if we defund it, who's to say that in this current administration, the one of cruelty and unjustness, that they just, well, we're going to keep people on to pack these places up, but we're just going to get rid of a couple facilities and just pack them in like sardines at the end of the day. So even if there was a push for defunding or minimizing the funds put into it, there has to be a thing in place to make sure that there's no cruelty as a result of that. You know, we're just not going to feed people this much, because that's what happens in private prisons too. You know, the private prisons are there to make money, and they make money by making it cheap as possible to operate. And so if we, take away the money for the funding for that department, we've got to remember the infrastructure involved in that as well. At least that's my concern.
A couple of things. First off, I've already seen in the comments, like we see every day in the beginning of this, where was your outrage about Obama? Actually, there was plenty of outrage about what Obama did. That's point number one. You obviously weren't paying attention, or you're too busy looking at your Newsmax talking points. Secondly, Obama provided due process. And thirdly, exactly what Captain just said. A lot of that money went for the housing of the people. So it's apples and oranges. We weren't talking about roving bands of jackbooted thugs unaliving people on city streets. There is really no comparison, despite in your fevered mind wish to find some sort of comparison. And as for the ICE thing, we are where we are now. The big, beautiful bill passed. Mm-hmm. The funding for ICE is only one of the many horribles in the big, beautiful bill. The taking away of the SNAP benefits, the evisceration of Medicaid, that is going to become the major story in about 6 months from now. We're not talking about it now. That's all everybody will be talking about 6 months from now. Why? Because 30% of all red states' population from age 0 to age 110 are on Medicaid, and they are going to be devastated. So you're going to get what you voted for. And ICE. But that funding is there. It's not going anywhere. So the best we can hope for now is to require warrants, require people to work with state and local authorities, and most importantly, and this is the third part of the Democratic ask, to have independent investigations enforcing a code of conduct. And the devil will be in the details here, folks. Just how independent are they, and who do they answer to? That's what I'm going to be paying particular attention to. If we get that, that's about the best we can get right now. You're quite right, Mike. The original sin was funding a jackbooted Gestapo with this kind of massive amounts, which, to put this in perspective, folks, is more money than the FBI, the Department of the Treasury, the Secret Service, all added together. We're giving these people more money. That was the original sin. What can we do about that now? Nothing. We can't do a goddamn thing about that now.
Yeah.
So we've got to take what we can get to end the insanity.
And I hear you, and I actually agree with you. My problem is that I don't trust that we will actually get it. I think they will find some way to avoid it from happening. And I think, unfortunately, the money that they got in the big, beautiful bill will make it possible if they separate it out. This is why, again, I could be wrong. This could be just me worrying for nothing. I agree with you if the stuff that they're asking for passes. The difference, the problem that I have is I fear that that if we separate it out, it would never get passed. That's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong on that.
Mike, you know how much I trust. You know how much I trust the Trump administration, which is zero. And I have the exact same fears. But I'm talking about the world of reality. We're in the minority here. These are the only cards we have to play.
I know. I'm just talking about my fears. I hope I'm wrong.
Wasn't it, and I can't remember the exact agency, and I see that someone's already doing that, already saying, what about Obama again? But correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember the exact alphabet soup of things that happened, but wasn't he sued? He was sued by like AICL or something like that. And then there was something related to them. They blocked him from implementing something like DACA or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, it doesn't matter. And I hear what you're saying, but we're just not going to, we're not going to talk about that. It doesn't matter. It's different. It's a different administration. It's a different time period. A lot of the people that are even voting age adults were children when all of that was going on with Obama. So what's the difference? New people in this country. A new way of looking at things. A new
decade between now and then.
Literally everything can be different between then and now. This is the problem that we have in general, is we literally, there's this idea that just because something happened before, that it should still be able to happen now. People didn't, if you feel that people didn't argue enough about it before, well, you know, obviously things have changed. Things change sometimes. The whole world changes. I know you guys are obsessed with this idea that the only thing we care about is because it's Trump doing it. No, we care about it because it goes against what we see as humanity. That's what it is.
And Captain, you brought up that you saw again about the Obama thing. You can get a little counter going. You're going to see the Obama thing mentioned at least 20 times in the first hour today. We've already explained it 500 times. Obama gave due process. There were protests against what Obama did. And if you people weren't paying attention or you choose to ignore that, that's on you. But it's asinine.
And yeah. And the whole thing with Tom Homan back then was a different situation. And we just, in the end, we need to focus on what we know, and we need to pay attention to the possibilities. And again, when it comes to this whole thing, if it passes the way they're talking about, I will be happy that we got what we could get. That there's literally, that I'm saying that straight up first. My problem is it's just a complete lack of trust, not just in this administration, but in the legislative branch of the United States of America and their ability to do things that actually help the people right now.
Yeah. And Mike, we aren't disagreeing at all. I mean, because at the end of the day, we still have an overfunded group of unaccountable, jackbooted thugs. And where does that still leave us? But if we can get some kind of guardrails, and especially if we can get independent investigative body that holds them to an enforced code of conduct, then they do become like a normal policing agency and they will be held to account. The devil will be in the details. And the thing that bothers me is that at least part of the enforcement mechanism would fall to the DOJ, and I do not trust them at all.
Yeah, I've always had a problem with we investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong. And it doesn't matter whether it was the DOJ, the police, any agency. If I were to say like, oh yeah, I did a crime or something like that, I'm going to hold a court hearing for myself. You know what? I don't think I'm guilty, so I'm not going to jail. Like, that doesn't hold up for me. Why does it hold up for a government agency? It should never be acceptable.
Well, that's actually, Captain, that's part of the thing. It wouldn't be investigating themselves again. There would be independent investigations. That's the most important part of the Democratic ask. My guess is that the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice would be recreated, which would be a very good thing. And as traditionally, it would be handled by them. They usually handle issues of this kind. And for the first time, to my knowledge, the first time ever, the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice was, no pun intended, iced out of this investigation, which is unheard of. At least I've never heard of it. I can't name one single time ever that they were not given jurisdiction.
And Jazz, what are we doing as a country except watching democracy go down the toilet? Well, there are people that are doing music festivals. There are people that are contacting their administration. There are literally thousands of people that want to fix things running for office. I'm trying to interview as many of those progressives that want to fix things as possible to give them visibility and name recognition. We're telling people to get their butts out and vote in primaries for those people and vote in the general election when and if they win. People are doing a lot of things. I mean, that's what do you expect to happen? What do you think is going to happen?
Not to mention, we've had 57 special elections where the turnout has been excellent, and the results have been 16 points towards the Democrats over and above the 2024 numbers. The electorate has shifted greatly. So things are happening, but I understand your frustration, and believe me, I think I speak for everybody here, both in chat and on panel, and certainly our host. It's frustrating that things move so slow, but that's the type of government that we have.
And Aaron,
I know how I feel your frustration. I have it too.
And Aaron, I completely agree with you. I don't trust anyone in the government to hold anyone accountable, regardless of the side of the aisle they're on. At this point, correct. 100% agree. That is one of the biggest problems that we have. And if you watch any of the videos that I make, that is one of the biggest things that every one of these people that want to fix things want to change is they want to change. They want accountability to have a place again in Congress, in federal government, in state government, in society in general.
And speaking to the speed of change too, like if you really want, we always learn, you learn in history, like, hey, there's the Boston Tea Party and then there was the Revolutionary War and there's all this stuff going on with that, right? People think like it happened that day. Look at the time frame of which when that happened to like when the actual Revolutionary War was going on, when all these different battles and things happened, like that in just the foundation of America where you're breaking things apart and then rebuilding them, that has a long period of time between how those things occurred. It's not a very fast process, but you don't want to be, you want to be efficient, but you don't want to be quick. You know, you quick, you can do things fast wrong, but efficient, you're doing it correct in the fastest way possible. And that's what a lot of this is going to have to take. We're not going to flip the switch and the government's fixed overnight. It takes a long period of time to fix things and fix things correctly, so we don't make a mistake in that process of fixing it that we have to go back and fix doubly at that point in time.
And just as a quick going, just as a very broad, because he is right, you can't have to be careful how you talk about things. What happens if he tries to say it? He can say whatever he wants. He has no authority over them. He has no authority over them. That's what happens. And we'll leave it at that. Because he said the same thing about the other election.
I'm sorry, Mike. I don't quite know what you're getting at. What did I miss here?
You didn't miss anything. Okay. It's just they're weird about it on this app about talking about certain things. So okay. I just have to be broad and generalized in it. He asked a question and yeah. It's just something we got to be careful about. That's all. Can he file lawsuits? Of course he can. He did. And it can go to court just like anything can.
On the topic that's had my feathers ruffled all day, did you see that video that they are trying to say that was a part of what Alex did 11 days ago?
I saw bits and pieces of it.
I put it in the Discord, obviously. I don't know if you've seen it, but like, it's clear that there are things I can't say with 100% certainty, but I have a pretty good certainty that it's faked, because I've never seen that logo on any vehicle. I've never seen that font of cursive on any vehicle. I watch vehicles all day. That's like half of my job. And the fact that that disappears mid video, I was like, how? But let's say that it was. Let's say that it's not, that it is faked. that is some 1984 stuff right there. That is insane to me, because we've been talking about this at work about AI videos and authenticity and being able to verify sources. And when you see people taking that seriously in little tiny jobs, like I wouldn't say that my job doesn't matter, but like jobs that are not reporting the news to the nation sort of situation, right? You can't just fire from the hip. That's crazy. Hammy, go look at the silver band on the vehicle on the right hand side. Look at that logo, and then look at the middle of the video and tell me that's still there. If you can come back and say that with honest earnesty, then you need to get your eyes checked.
Not to mention his first statement means absolutely nothing, because that is not a thing.
Captain, he's not going to look at the video. Take a look at his first comment. He was Antifa. I mean, there goes your credibility right there.
Yeah.
For those that are on the fence, go take a look. Go take a look at that exact thing. It's insane, because that's the thing that's tiring. I saw someone else in chat going like, "Oh, I'm just tired from everything that this administration doing." And to this I say, hey, if you have 5% to give of your day and that's all you have, then that's giving your 100% for what you can give to pay attention to these sorts of things. That's the point, is to make people tired. You have to care with what you can care with, and you have to take the time that you need for yourself first and foremost, because it is going to be a long race. It's going to be a marathon. It's not going to be a sprint. And so we got to all pace ourselves for what's coming, and realize that there's other people who have more of their time to give on these sorts of things, and take the time and the effort that you have to take the people that you trust, like I trust the people on this panel, who do the research and do the things and are educated. At the end of the day, we have to trust in the experts in their respective fields for the things that they do, and we have to stay in our lanes when we don't know what we know, and that's the best you're going to be able to do.
And Captain, it's an interesting issue as to whether or not the video from 11 days ago is AI or not. However, it is legally completely 100% irrelevant as to what occurred 11 days later. It has no bearing on the legality of what occurred to Alex 11 days later. None.
Right, because one crime that you committed doesn't mean it's going to be another crime that's... If I committed a crime 11 days ago and then I go and completed a completely different crime today, those do have no bearing on each other, because they're completely unrelated things. You would go to two separate court cases for two separate crimes, because that's how it goes. Just because someone did something then doesn't mean they'll do it now. And that's a flaw in people's understanding of the justice system. You would know of anyone.
The relevance is whether or not the officer had the right to use lethal force 11 days later. Therefore, what may or may not have occurred 11 days preceding to that is completely and totally irrelevant. And secondly, could not even be brought up in court. It's called a prior act. Couldn't be brought up.
Hey, Vonda.
I think the thing that bubbles my tea in that situation is just that it's the same problem I have with 24-hour news cycles, is that it's all about how fast can we get something out, and there's no accountability. I forget what the act was when they repealed that for the accountability of news stations. That was the biggest mistake, in my opinion. And that was before my time, so to speak. And learning about it later on, it's frustrating, because it's like, we should have that. We should have them accountable for the things. Like the fact that it's even called, Fox News, and we know that they argued in court that it's not a news station. Then take it out of the name. That's misleading,
Yeah, you're referring to the fairness doctrine, which went away under Reagan.
Reagan hurts my soul, because everything goes back to Reagan when it comes to problems.
When Fox can say we're just entertainment, and yet still be looked at as a news agency. That's where it's ridiculous. I don't care if they call themselves entertainment. It's that they are allowed to call themselves. I don't care that they are just entertainment. What makes me angry is that they're allowed to call themselves news on their name, and people can look at them as news.
Yeah, news entertainment shouldn't be a culpable sentence, but here we are. You know, they have the same level of news authority as like the Daily Show, in that it's like a news entertainment network, but it's treated like it's just a news network, and that's gross. I have a lot more words, but it's gross.
Kia, any questions from the other side you want to bring up to us?
Oh, I mean,
They're not really asking questions. A lot of them that we've been talking about or I've been just mentioning it on the one thing that I can't say. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kia.
yeah, not really. But I heard somebody ask a question and I didn't listen. I have to say, I didn't stay to listen to the response. I was getting in the car and I went ahead and started listening to the interview. And somebody asked a question with the whole thing about the video that was released about Alex. And like they are saying that his family did say that they knew he had an encounter with them previously, but somebody had asked, could that be seen as like them having a motive, the Cubes or Border Patrol, being that they did engage with him previously and nothing happened to him, and this time they went, you know what I mean? It was an obviously way over escalation of what happened in the situation, and they all jumped on him. I know you guys were talking about they're two separate things and stuff, but couldn't they view that, if any, or parts of that video is real, to show that?
It would probably be considered a prior act and not admissible. And at any rate, it doesn't change the fact that the legal standard would focus on the right of the ICE agents to use lethal force in the situation they were presented with 11 days later. What he did 11 days prior, or did not do, we don't know if it's AI or not. What he did 11 days prior has little to no bearing on the use of lethal force. They would still judge whether lethal force was justified in the incident where he had been pepper sprayed, he had been disarmed, and he was on the ground. Did he present a imminent threat of death to the ICE agents or any innocent bystanders? And I think the answer to that is clear. So I don't believe that the incident from 11 days prior would be relevant to that at all. And in fact, I doubt it would be admissible.
To follow up with that, because I think I understand what some people are asking, and Scott, correct me. What Scott is saying is that first we must establish the legality of the situation that occurred, i.e. the pew-pewing. If it's determined that that portion of things, first and foremost, has to be determined if that was legal or not legal. After that point, they might be able to visit the motivations behind it, but just proving if it is legal or not legal for them to have done what they did in that context is the first and most important step, because everything else, it doesn't really matter leading up to that point if what he did was illegal. Because you can't claim it's retaliation, you can't claim it's all these other different things without first proving whether or not they had the right to do that in the first place. Because if I have an altercation with somebody and then 11 days later I have a separate altercation with somebody, and that leads to something happening, those two things might loosely correlate, but if what happens to me in the current situation is legal or not legal is what needs to be determined first.
They would have to show, meaning the government, would have to show a nexus between the event from 11 days earlier and the event of the pew-pewing. And part and parcel of that would be that they were hunting him down pursuant to arrest for the event 11 days earlier. They were not. These were two completely separate incidents. The police officers and the ICE officers involved in the pew-pewing were not even aware that this was a person who was caught in an alleged video from 11 days earlier. So therefore, being no nexus between the two events, they're legally irrelevant. They cannot be linked.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Thank you for clarifying, Scott. But yeah, in like the layman's terms of things is like if what they did currently was legal or not legal is the most important thing to prove first.
Did that answer your question, Kia?
Yeah, it wasn't even my question. Like I said, I heard somebody else ask it, but I didn't get to hear the discussion that came like after it. I like to hear what different people, whether they're different lawyers, different expertise, and different. I like to hear different people's points of views on things. And it's just when I'm driving in the morning, it's dark, and I have like this fear of like hitting an animal or hitting something. So once I start driving, I don't change it. So I go ahead, and once I start driving out the parking lot, out of my driveway, I turn on mic, and I didn't get to hear it. And I was just curious, more so,
Yeah.
what you guys, would say about it.
To put it in layman's terms, I think the alleged event, which may or may not be AI, the alleged event from 11 days earlier is a red herring that people are throwing out. Okay, that's my view of it in layman's terms. It doesn't mean anything because the only thing that's relevant is the use of lethal force on the incident to Alex and whether or not that was justified. That's the only relevant issue.
That's the only relevant issue under the law. Unfortunately, most people don't care about that kind of stuff. At least most of the people that are bringing it up.
Like a legal thing. But like it's the public opinion portion of things for supporting things when it comes to voting and midterms and like getting people to trust communities, having that inflammation. It's the social sphere that I would be more concerned with in proving that point. From a legal standpoint, Scott, you're 100% correct. My problem is the social standpoint and the court of public opinion, as they call it.
Oh, I even think in the court of public opinion, it would be largely considered irrelevant, except for those who deliberately want to find a red herring.
Yeah.
And in which case, if it wasn't this red herring, they would find another red herring. That is what they do. It's the same as the people who keep bringing up Obama and why weren't you people outraged with Obama? It's just a Pavlovian response with them. It doesn't involve any thought, reason, or logic. It's a Pavlovian response. And they'll continue to find this 11-day thing. Then they'll find something else this guy did. This is all part of victim blaming. And that's part of their pathology. And this has nothing to do with the law. This has to do with psychology. And these people will keep bringing up red herrings. They'll keep bringing up Obama. I'm surprised we haven't seen Hunter's laptop enter the conversation. What about the tarmac, Benghazi? It's all part of their pathology. That's what they do.
What's happening in Minneapolis, Scott B, is ICE's fault. And this kind of stuff is happening. Just because no one's lost their life in the way that it's happened in Minneapolis does not mean they're not doing the exact same things in the exact same places.
Kia could fill this in because she knew it before I did. The lady who lived, who was pew-pewed, I think 5 times, and she lived, all charges have been dropped with prejudice against her. She was charged with crimes that she never committed to cover up the fact that she was pew-pewed inadvertently. I forget her name. It's an Hispanic name, and it eludes me, but I know you had brought it up before, so you would remember her name, Kia.
You got me.
Oh, okay. Because you were talking about her last week, and I was frankly unaware of the entire situation. But you had brought her up where she was pew-pew, and they tried to say that she led a 10-car caravan and was blocking ICE agents. And then the judge in the court said, well, where's your evidence of this? There's no 10 cars. There's no 2 cars. There's no nothing. And the DOJ dropped all charges, and they dropped them with prejudice. They can't be brought again. And she's fighting now to release the results of that investigation so that everybody can know what happened to her. Now, she lived, so of course she's not in the news as much as Ms. Good and Alex are, but what happened to her is every bit as horrendous.
Does everyone else get really disturbing AI advertisements now? Probably. They're kind of everywhere, Anna. Unfortunately.
Every 5 minutes of my life.
Alex did have a previous encounter where they broke his ribs. That is documented. Is that not in the news? Not that I've ever seen.
And again, how's that relevant to anything? How's that relevant to what happened?
It was just, someone was just asking. It was just,
okay. I thought that was
no.
No, I'm not aware of the him breaking ribs and I have not read that.
Sometimes when Mike reads his stuff on the other side, he doesn't necessarily read who it's from. So some of the comments are being read. They talked for a long time. There was a lot of comments, so I didn't read.
Thank you, DD. That's the name. Thank you, DD. The name was Miramar Martinez. And she was hit with, I don't even know what you're allowed to say on this app. The things that come out of pew-pews. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Bullets. She was hit, I think, 5 times. I think that's what I read. And miraculously survived, thank God. And she is now suing to get the investigative report released because she thinks the public has a right to know what happened to her. And I think she is absolutely correct, especially since charges were dropped without prejudice, which means that they had no grounds to arrest or prosecute her at all. And they're admitting that they had no grounds to arrest or prosecute. That's what without prejudice means. It means they can never bring charges against her again.
Anna, the stuff that we've been talking about before is why we're saying it's actually not relevant. Them watching him for any reason doesn't matter if the legality of using lethal force, if what they did to him on that day is illegal. It doesn't matter if they had him on some watch list or anything else.
Let's put it into the perspective of, like, let's say you have a restraining order against somebody. If you get a restraining order against somebody 2 weeks ago, and then they show up to your house and they're standing outside of your house, and then you approach them and you're yelling at them and what have you, that's not the play. The play would be called the police. They show up and they handle the situation in that respect. If you then go up to them and get into an altercation and your immediate thing is to become the aggressor and pew them, they're going to be looking at you, despite that whole situation with the restraining order. They're going to be looking at you for your crimes against them in that situation. Now, it's different because this is cops who have to do the job, but they're not really cops. They're ICE agents, and they don't have jurisdiction over people as so far as U.S. citizens. And so them coming up and approaching that individual, even if they had an altercation with them in prior instances, doesn't play into this particular instance. It's completely separate. It's completely different. It's a new thing. It's like wiping the slate clean and starting fresh. You look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. It's a new book, not a new chapter.
Let me give you an analogy that'll explain it, without using legal terms. If they were hunting down the Unabomber, then his previous acts become relevant, because he has a history and they know and they are searching for him. And therefore, there's a different standard when they try and take him down. even though the incident of taking him down would still require, the right to use lethal force. However, since you have to consider the totality of the circumstances, them knowing about the Unabomber and what he had done gives them more leeway. In this instance, the ICE agents had no idea who they were dealing with. They were not hunting him down. There was no warrant out for his arrest. He wasn't a suspect.
They were just standing there talking to him.
They were just standing there talking to him. There is no nexus, therefore, between the two events at all, either in a legal sense or in a how do we feel about this sense. There's no nexus to it. So this whole story about what happened 11 days before, if it even happened, and you've done a good job of debunking it, Captain, but maybe it is true. You admit you could be wrong. At any rate, it's irrelevant both from a legal standpoint and from us judging it as citizens. It's two totally different things. It's apples and oranges. Whereas if you had somebody like the Unabomber who had a history, you knew who you were looking for, there was a manhunt going on, his prior acts would be relevant, but they're not relevant in this case.
Anna, I don't think anyone thinks you're trying to justify it. This is the thing about conversations, okay? These kind of arguments are things that we're also going to hear. So you bringing up questions allow us to talk about all of the perspectives that we might hear, and also give us the ability to have discussions with people that might have these incorrect perspectives on it. If you aren't a lawyer, if you've never experienced this, who knows what perspective you could see from it. That's why these conversations are absolutely necessary. So sometimes we get really emotional because this is an emotional situation, but understand, why do people think this is so confusing? I don't think anyone thinks that you're doing that. I thought you were asking people. I thought you were just asking questions, and we're just talking about it because this is a big, important situation. Please don't feel that this is what conversation looks like.
For perspective, I can't even see the person who's asking the question or that they asked the question. I'm responding to Scott.
Yeah, and for the record, I did not see those questions either. I apologize. Maybe I should have seen those questions, but I was responding to Captain.
No, they're over on the tube.
Yeah. A debate is something that can look like an argument or it can look like a heated discussion. It's different viewpoints looking at the same problem and coming to some kind of conclusion. And sometimes that involves convincing the other party, and sometimes it's just, well, we agree to disagree on this one point, but it's going to look very heated. It's going to look like some kind of verbal altercation, but we're really just passionate about the outcomes and, at the end of the day, what's right with that conversation.
Seen rumors Minnesota ICE is hitting Ohio. How true is that? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. They're everywhere. They're literally everywhere. Could they be building up there? 100%. I haven't heard anything, though.
We have some here in Western and upstate New York. They're everywhere. You can find them if you look hard enough.
But yes, yeah. I just want to say this quick again, Anna. Understand, we appreciate you. We appreciate what you bring to the community. We understand that you are there and you are seeing it and experiencing it. We are just having conversations, and sometimes conversations, especially when it's in an emotional situation, we can get a little loud and we can get a little snappy even sometimes, but understand that we all know you, we all appreciate you, and no one thinks you are defending anything that's going on in your community by ICE. At least no
Yeah,
one
I'm
in
just
this
a sassy
community.
person in general. I talk fast, I move fast. It sounds like aggression. That's just the New Yorker in me. People are definitely allowed to have their own very unique experiences, and that doesn't mean what I say is true. More so than your own experience. Only you can define your experience.
Seems to be a ton more in Michigan this week. Started a school bus stop. Great. Wonderful. Ugh.
Kia and Bex, wasn't they talking about that? You guys know more than me. The ambulance that got stopped with the snowplow and stuff.
I I didn't. Bex told me about it. Evidently, they stopped an ambulance or something like that. I haven't. I told her I hadn't seen the video about that.
Oh, I misinterpreted that. I thought you had heard about it, and that those are people talking about.
Mm-mm. She said she had seen it, and I told her I hadn't seen that yet. And then the chat was talking about that's I saw your comment when you say it said they're not supposed to do it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Well, when I was an EMT, yeah, medical precedents superseded any legal definition. Like an officer couldn't be like, "I'm going to arrest this person, take them, print them to the jail and stuff," if they're in an active like medical emergency. And so like that would always be illegal. And it would be like an egregious thing because you're interfering with a medical person. Like even in a hospital, police don't have the right to demand things of the nurses if they're taking care of someone in a medical aspect, because your medical licensing, which is granted by the state, it's granted by a certification state board, whether you're an EMT, basic, EMT advanced, paramedic, nurse, doctor, etc. Your medical license is going to supersede a lot of things in that scenario. And not only that, it's going to make sure that if somebody interferes with that, like there should be repercussions. So when they were saying like, oh, there was an ambulance that got stopped by the cubes and they were on the way to the hospital, I'm like, that's a problem. I forget what the specific things are. Scott, you probably know the actual legal vernacular issues with that, but I was like, that's a big problem.
Two things real quick. Who takes the role if she's impeached and convicted or just kicked out? I don't know. Honestly, at this moment, don't care. We need to start holding people accountable in this administration, in politics in general. And so who knows? The other thing, just I think Anna asked it a couple times, wanted me to ask you, Captain, if you worked with Mercado. You should know. No one can know. How would anyone know who takes over if who would be put in the position?
666 Kristi Noem hasn't been fired yet. So it's impossible to know who would take her place. She still has the job.
I'm afraid I don't know what a Mercado is.
Somebody replied to her though, said, I'm guessing it must be a creator, and said, no, you're in a different state. She asked if you ride with somebody, and somebody had already replied to her and said that.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm solo. I'm a solo investigator. I don't ride with anybody.
It's a simple Google search. Google does not know what would happen if Kristi Noem got impeached. If Kristi Noem got impeached and convicted, they would put someone else in her place.
Yeah, I think the original question is who's going to replace Kristi Noem, and Kristi Noem still has the job. So I don't know how to answer that.
I will say, like the earlier conversation, I think that when you guys were talking about the guardrails, my issue with that though is they haven't, in the law, when they created the law and the bill that was signed to release the JE files, there was a date it was supposed to be done. It's 41 days late. There's no accountability or anything in the laws that was supposedly a guardrail. what is the freaking guardrail going to do if there's nothing, if they don't do it or they don't hold up to it? There's no accountability. That's why it kind of feels like they can do all the talking and we can try to get so and so to agree and do all of this, but it's like they're not, even in the things that they're part of, they're not following through. They're not doing what they say they're going to do. The guardrails are not working because literally nobody's doing anything. What do you do when the people who are supposed to uphold them just choose to actively ignore it? It's
Well,
frustrating.
that's what the Democrats are asking for, is the creation of a uniform code of conduct with, and this is the important part, a completely independent investigative body to make sure that they follow them. Now, the devil will be in the details. What is the independent investigative body and who does it answer to? We don't know that, but the devil will be in the details on this. And I think of the three things that the Democrats are asking for, that's the most, to me, that's the most important.
I think what she's saying, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, is if they make so yes, there'll be an independent organization or body that's job is to oversee see what they do and enforce those guardrails, but what authority will they have past the point of saying you did something wrong? Because who's still the ultimate bearer of enforcement, I think is the problem that a lot of us have, is if it still comes down to the DOJ or the executive branch as a whole holding, enforcing the decision by this independent body, it still, I don't think anyone believes that anything would get done, because nothing's got done when they break the law already.
Okay, then that leads to a rather obvious question. What would you be asking for? I mean, if this is not satisfactory to you, what would you be asking for?
Okay, let me caveat what I'm about to say by another statement. There is nothing satisfactory in the grand scheme of things past this administration not being here anymore, because that's always going to be a problem. I think this all still comes from a lack of trust. But past that, you may be right. There is nothing that we could do. That is still an overarching problem, right? Is there is no way, as long as this DOJ exists, as long as this executive branch exists, and as long as we have a Congress that is unwilling to do their job, I
know that's the problem.
This is the oversight committee bipartisan. It's still this still comes down to enforcement. The overarching problem is still enforcement. We can have every committee, everything that we want, but if the people responsible for doing the enforcement are the bad people, then it doesn't matter what's written.
Yeah. That's the problem. We elected this government, and now we're paying the price. And we elected a Congress, and somebody brought up, isn't the oversight committee supposed to be nonpartisan? And by and large, they're the most nonpartisan part of the government. But as we've already discovered, they're not nonpartisan at all. So here we are with Congress not doing its job, Congress having abdicated its powers. This is probably the best the Democrats can get. And is it satisfactory? It's not satisfactory to me either, folks. And there's still no guarantee that Trump will ever agree to any of this. But I don't know what else they can do. And that's the bind we find ourselves in, because we're dealing with the executive branch, at least, of our government, and I would argue the legislative branch of our government, acting in bad faith. And if you have a governance that acts in bad faith, it sort of calls into question anything that you can do. And I get that. But in terms of, well, the Democrats should do this, and the Democrats have no power. This is the best that they can get. And I think it is about the best that they can get. Do I also find that completely satisfactory? No, I don't. And for reasons that you and Kia have laid out, we're dealing with a government, or at least an executive branch of the government, and probably the legislative branch, that acts in bad faith.
And unfortunately, at least judicial in terms of the people in the Department of Justice. And the Supreme Court, for goodness sakes.
Mission makes a good point. The legal system moves slow, and Mission, it does. And that is why, I'll say it again, and I know I sound like a broken record here. I'm no fan of it either, and I'm certainly no fan of this Supreme Court. But we can't keep looking to the courts to rescue us. They're not designed to do that. The branch of government we should be holding to the fire is the legislative branch of government. They are the ones who have abdicated their responsibility. They are the ones who have the authority to bring Trump to heel, and they do have the authority. They can easily bring Trump to heel, and they don't.
Tony, he doesn't have immunity from breaking any law as president. He has immunity from things that are considered presidential jobs, presidential powers.
And to further your point, Scott, because you're right, the founding fathers had the framework. There's a reason there's 3 branches of government, not 2, because 2, it's like, I don't like you, you don't like me. We got to get a third person to kind of arbitrate in the middle here. And then they created 3 different branches with different powers to check and balance them. The problem is, at least in my opinion, and this is my opinion, we have solely focused on one particular branch of government, which is the executive branch. It all comes down to every 4 years we have the Super Bowl, and everyone votes on the president's going to change things, and they forget about the other branches of the government that are equally as important for the fact that they're meant to check that person, and the other one's supposed to check the other person's, and all of these things are supposed to work somewhat adversarially, but in a unified way. The end result is that we all benefit in America, and we have a better life in America. And that, how we get to that point, we can differ on those points, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to consolidate and agree that, well, we're going to go at least in this direction for now. For many, many years, decades, if you ask me, we focus on just the executive, and now everyone thinks that the executive branch of government is the only branch that matters, which is why he can just throw up an executive order, and everyone's like, well, that's the law now. It's like, that's not how it works. It is if you don't understand the other stuff and you weren't interested in the other stuff, and it is not interesting, don't get me wrong, but if you are not worried about every levels of your government, then you're going to have a problem. And this is where I'll segue into, this is why you should watch all the things that Mike is doing over on YouTube. And if you're not following over on the tube, then you should definitely go do that. But he's interviewing a lot of people who are doing these types of things. How many do you got now, Mike? I'll let you take it away.
How many interviews?
Yeah, how many you got loaded up now?
I think I've posted another one today, so right now there are 2, 4, 6, 7 posted, but I've recorded 17 this week alone, so there are going to be a lot more coming up as soon. So yeah, that
Captain, to go to your point, let's leave the 3 branches of government out. The judicial branch is not supposed to have much of a role in the day-to-day governance of the United States. It is supposed to be an adversarial relationship between the legislative and executive branches, which is the way it's supposed to work, will be beneficial, will act as a check on each other so that no overweening power resides in either of the two branches. Of the two branches, the legislative branch is thought to be the most powerful. The executive branch has a little bit more authority in the conduct of foreign affairs. What we have here, though, what was never anticipated, was that the political party system would go, and rather than the legislative branch asserting its own rights and responsibilities granted to it under Article 1, it instead has become more of a party thing, where the party in power in the White House, if it's the same as the party, one of the parties that works together with the party, with their own party in the Congress. And as a result, Congress does not assert its own rights and responsibilities. It works in lockstep with the executive branch. That is not the way our government is supposed to work. But that's the way it's working now. All I know is I can name no other time in American history where I've seen the legislative branch completely abandon its rights and responsibilities under Article 1. As I've brought up many times, even when a president has massive majorities in the House and the Senate still exert their authority over the executive branch. Many times, presidents with huge majorities have to step carefully and work with Congress to get things done. Now we have a Congress that just says, well, the example is this morning, Senator Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, going, well, I'm not going to split up the 6 bills, but you go talk to Trump. If he says okay, that's okay with me. That's not leadership. That's acquiescence. That's not what a senator and the Senate is supposed to do. But that's what Senator Thune said. Well, go work it out with Trump. You two talk it out. If it's okay with Donald, it's okay with us. Well, wait a second. You just said the Senate wasn't going to split up the 6 bills, but if it's okay with Trump, it's okay with you. That's not the way the legislature is supposed to work.
I want to say a couple things that I think are really important. I do say them a lot. We talk a lot on this channel, and there are a lot of lives, and there's a lot of people out there that talk about how things are broken in this country, and we need to fix things. Here's the reality of the situation that we're in. There are lots, and when I say lots, I can already tell you there are hundreds that we have contacted already of people that are progressive in the sense of they see the problem. They want to actually fix the problems that are going on in this country. They want to be held accountable for doing what Congress is supposed to be doing. They want to help people. They care about, they have humanity and empathy, and the things that we say are important in our society. The one thing that we have been so bad at in this country is doing our own work, paying attention, and getting involved. Now, obviously, it seems like to some extent, at least, we're getting better at it. But as a whole, we're still pretty bad at it. 20 to 25% is a good primary for people that come out. 20 to 25%. And the people that win are almost always the incumbents, are always the people with name recognition, are always the people that were willing to take PAC money or corporate money or lobbyist money or all the other things. So the real question is do we want to actually fix things? There is no leader of the Democratic Party. There shouldn't be any leader of any party. No one should be a part of a party, if you're asking me. I'm okay with the idea of being part of a party in the sense of that way people know that everyone in it should stand for generally the same things, at least the same baseline. But past that, there shouldn't be a leader. I don't know why they feel there's a need. Everyone should be doing the work. If you want to fix things, do the work. If you want progressives to be in office, there are literally hundreds, thousands that are running. I found out in an interview yesterday. I've talked about how for the first time, Jen Wiles is one of them that I've interviewed. Hers hasn't come up yet, but I interviewed someone who's running for a state legislature seat in Texas, and they said, I've said before that for the first time there's a Democrat running in all the congressional positions in Texas. He told me that for the first time ever, there is a Democrat running for every state and federal seat in Texas. Progressives today aren't much better than Republicans. False, McRae. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. 150,000%.
Me too, Mike.
That because not only because that's not what I've seen, but also you are comparing two completely different different identities and descriptions. A progressive and a Republican is just a name of an organization. That means absolutely nothing. But I disagree that then you are saying that I'm not much better than a Republican. And if you believe that, that's fine. You're allowed to believe that. I consider myself a progressive. Yes, I believe they are very different. I believe they are massively different because I'm interviewing people that consider themselves progressives. And I can tell you straight up that they are different. Only 36. Who cares? I don't approve of the Democratic Party. I don't approve of the Republican Party. Why I've never considered myself associated with either.
Robert, just to put it in context, the president has that approval rating, and so do Republicans. And yes, the Democrats are not very popular either. As a matter of fact, governance in particular in the United States is not popular. The people aren't happy with any of them.
In the grand scheme of things, I don't care what you call yourself. I care what you stand for. And that's what it comes down to. Okay? What do you stand for? Do you stand for people? Do you stand for humanity and empathy? Do you stand for accountability? Do you stand for human rights? Those are the kind of things that I care about. I don't care about what, in the grand scheme of things, and I've said this a million times already, when I decide who I'm voting for, I look at everyone. Now, I can 999% guarantee, especially in 2026, that I'm going to look at a Republican and go, nope. Straight up, nope, because they don't align with considering yourself progressive doesn't make you so. Okay. Then it sounds like we have different ideas of what it means to be progressive, and I can't control that. I also wouldn't consider that party that ran things in the 1930s in Germany actually socialist, but they called themselves that. So this is the problem with any times when it comes to identity and words. That's why I don't lean much on it. I call people progressive that want this country to progress. That's what progressive is for me. What do you believe is the best course of action for Democrats? It's not, and again, I know Scott can talk about more of the broad view. I think we need to stop worrying about that. We need to start talking about what we want and start fighting for what we want. What do we want? And who's running that wants to fight for what we want? That's what we need to be doing. When the general election comes, you get a certain amount of choices. You get the choices of who is running, and you have to take the best of that. But the primaries is when you fight for what you want. That is your time to fight for what you want in your representative, what you want your representative to look like. That's why I am interviewing 17 people in 1 week. That is why I have 2 amazing volunteers who are helping reach out to hundreds of people that want to change things. That's why I'm doing 4 or 5 interviews a day, because that is what's necessary to get the visibility and the name recognition for people that want to change things. Because if in the end we just vote for people that might, in primaries, that might appeal to people that we may not agree with, then are we really trying to make a society that is better? I want to read this. I was going to make a video about it, but I'm going to read it now because I think this is important. "1963, Birmingham, Alabama. Martin Luther King was responding to a bunch of pastors who said that he should calm down and let the courts do their thing. And I just want to read one part. You should read the whole thing, by the way. You should read it multiple times. "I must make 2 honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have also reached the regrettable conclusion that the great stumbling block to our freedom is not white citizens counselor or the white racists, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically feels that he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who constantly advises the black person to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. In your statement, you asserted that our actions, even though peaceful, must be condemned because they precipitate violence. But can this assertion be logically made? Isn't this like condemning the robbed man because his possession of money precipitated the evil act of robbery? Isn't this like condemning Socrates because his unswerving commitment to truth and his philosophical delvings precipitated the misguided popular mind to make him drink the hemlock? Isn't this like condemning Jesus because his unique God consciousness and never ceasing devotion to his will precipitated the evil act of crucifixion? We must come to see, as federal courts have constantly affirmed, that it is immoral to urge an individual to withdraw his efforts to gain his basic constitutional rights because the question precipitates violence. Society must protect the robbed and punish the robber. I had also hoped that the white moderate would reject the myth of time. I received a letter this morning from a white brother in Texas which said all Christians know that the colored people will receive equal rights eventually, but it is possible that you are in too great of a religious hurry. It has taken Christianity almost 2,000 years to accomplish what it has. The teachings of Christ take time to come to earth. All that is said here grows out of a tragic misconception of time. It is the strangely irrational notion that there is something in the very flow of time that will inevitably cure all ills. Actually, time is neutral. It can be used either destructively or constructively. I am coming to feel that the people of ill will have used time much more effectively than the people of goodwill. We will have to repent in the generation not merely for the vitriolic words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. We must come to see that human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and persistent work of men willing to be co-workers with God, and without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation.
I believe that's letters from the Birmingham jail.
Yep.
Yep. Well, the words of Dr. King are always instructive for two reasons. Number one, in and of themselves. And number two, it is always a pleasure to read the words of someone who had such a great command of the English language. He thinks in prose and he writes in poetry.
And I just wish people understand that that was not that long ago. There's people in here right now who were alive when he wrote that and when he was doing a lot of the things that he did.
Yep.
And just the fact that here it is in 2026.
Quite true. Yeah, I remember very well the night that he died, and what happened in my house, the horror of it all. And you know, he as I brought up the other day, he knew his last major speech. He prophesized what would occur to him. His famous mountaintop speech. And those words are as moving today as they were the night he spoke them.
Progress.
Also remember the context of his writing from the letters from Birmingham jail. 1963 Birmingham was where Bull Connor sicked his dogs on black protesters, peaceful protesters, I might add. He sicked his dogs on them. And that, pictures, much like in Minnesota today, pictures have a way of moving a people. And that was a great tragedy what Bull Connor did, but Bull Connor inadvertently did more for the civil rights movement than a lot of people did, because it woke a lot of people up to the injustices that were happening in the South. For the first, television was still relatively new at that time, and television news was only 15 minutes a night. And when those pictures spread across America of Bull Connor sicking his dogs and fire hoses on peaceful black protesters, that awakened a lot of people in this country. Now, it's true, they should have been awakened long before, but it did. And that is the power of the visual image. And we see that today in Minnesota. So there is a nexus between that.
And Tony, I hear you. What you see throughout history is it still comes down to fear. Many moderates fear unknown. They fear change, just like conservatives do. Moderates are just as open to fearing change as conservatives are. Or I should say, in many ways, moderates are actually more fearful of change than conservatives are, at least the conservatives that we have here. Breaking news.
Dude got 20 years for unaliving Sonia Massey.
Ooh.
Fucking about time. Sorry.
No.
That just made me so excited.
Good.
Oh.
In many ways, moderates don't fear change more than in this case the ultra conservatives or the ultra progressives. The direction of the change is just what's massively different between the two. So the real question is, do you want change? You want change, do the work. There are people in this country that are standing up on the streets against what is happening. There are people that are standing up not on the streets against what is happening. You can do it all. It all has value. It all has purpose. I'm saying one of the easiest things that we can do to push us in the direction of the change that we want, that we keep talking about, is when people like Jen Wiles, who use video you will see later, when people who want that change are running, there's just easy things you can do. There's such easy things. I know money is tight right now, so it's hard sometimes to give to people that are running in all of these races. But we've already said visibility and name recognition mean more. The reason that money gives that to them is they're able to put things out there. But there are other ways you can do it. And I'm saying this in the grand scheme of things, if it's not just about watching my stuff, it's watching their stuff. It's find out who's running in your district. I guarantee those progressives are on social media somewhere. Guaranteed. And you can help them. Yes, if watching my stuff helps them too, please watch my stuff. That's why I'm doing it. But in the end, it's going to take work from all of us to fix this problem. We cannot sit here and hope the Democratic Party as a whole does it. We just can't. We know that. And I think there's always a part of us that hopes that something will wake them up. But we just can't assume that's going to happen. And we have to do it ourselves. Because if we want to take money out of politics, if we want accountability to be a thing, if we want these changes that help society to happen, we can't sit just on the courts doing the right thing or Congress doing the right thing. That doesn't mean they don't have their place. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be working as well. But we cannot just sit on that. We just can't sit on that. We have to do more. And I'll keep saying it for as many times as I have to. I feel like I've been saying it for the last 4 years now, but I will keep saying it. You should out the Republicans who are running Democratic. If there are ones, please let me know. Please let me know. If there are people running in a party that are obviously completely amoral, let me know. I'll put something together about it. I have no issue with that. But just as much as pointing that out, we need to support the ones that are running. So
I want to say, on the other side, Ash said, oh gosh, sometimes they want the change, but they don't want to lose their privilege. And that is such a big thing. And the biggest thing is for people to understand that making sure that everybody is doing better doesn't lessen anything for you. And that's like one of the things I hear, it grosses me out the most, is when you hear these people talking about immigrants and BIPOC people and stuff like that. Why DEI is such a problem, DIA, and all the stuff that they don't know what they're talking about. And I just want people to understand That is so freaking true. Like, we need to understand that just because all of our everybody gets, when everybody does, when you let the minorities of people, the people who are marginalized and not represented as well, when we flourish, everybody flourishes. And I wish people would get that all the way through their head.
To add to that and to add to what Mike said, I'll say this every single day, and it's especially true today. I am a YT cisgendered male. The easiest thing in the world for me to do right now is absolutely nothing. I can go to sleep tonight and I can wake up tomorrow and absolutely nothing in my world will change because I am the exact demographic that benefits in this kind of society. But is that the morally correct thing to do? Is that the right thing to do? I wake up and tell myself it's not. And that's why I try to learn, and that's why I try to educate myself, and that's why I try to do more. Because the easy path for me would be to do nothing, but it's not the right path. And that's exactly what I take from that speech from Martin Luther King is that, yeah, you can do nothing, but that's not right.
Well, that's it, isn't it? That's it. That's the fundamental question for a society is what is the moral thing to do, not the expedient thing to do. That's the question. And it's a question that is not easy to answer. There are no easy paths to reaching a conclusion to that question. And that's what takes thought, and that's what takes educating yourself as to the issues and what you can do. Because I'm also in the same boat as you. And in fact, I'm in an even better demographic. I'm an older cis white male. So shit, I don't have to do a damn thing if I didn't want to. But it's not the country that I want to see lives beyond my lifetime. I would prefer to strive towards a more perfect union. That's what I prefer to do. And, like you said, Captain, it would be in our best interest to just sit on our ass and do nothing. But that doesn't get us to where we morally feel we have to be. In the final analysis, it's a moral equation here. It goes beyond the political. It goes to a deep moral belief into what you want this country to be. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I never lost my car because my neighbor got a car. And I've always thought that. I've never lost anything by someone gaining something. And you never will. I will tell you that you will always lose something when someone else loses something because they're always going to be looking to take from the person who has something. You got to learn to give. And, in these spaces, especially at the bare minimum, give the time to learn, to acknowledge. And that's how everybody will progress, is by making sure that everybody has something at the end of the day.
On the other side, Anna has said, for many generations, it was taboo to bring up politics, and I think that played a part in where we're at. I've talked about that before, Anna, multiple times, and I think that goes a lot of ways. Not talking about politics and that whole what happens in this house stays in this house. I think that's definitely, because when you silence people talking about stuff, that's how you're able to slip through things on the backside. It doesn't always have to be blatant. You don't have to always light crosses on fire in people's yards. You don't have to walk around with blatant things on to know that you're doing dirty stuff in the background. And I think that was a really easy way. Don't talk about it in public. It's a way of controlling people. It's a way of the people becoming complicit, and they just stayed comfy in their houses and their homes, and they didn't really pay attention to what was going on around them.
And, for me growing up, the ideas of We don't talk politics in certain spaces, which lent the idea that everything in our life doesn't have something to do with politics, and this idea of agreeing to disagree, which is still used in many circles. It allowed certain ideas, certain perspectives that have no place in a society that believes in humanity to exist.
Oh, there's something to be said to agree to disagree. There's something to be said for that. But the only time that you can say that is when you have shared values.
Right.
You can
That's
agree
what I
to
mean.
disagree. Yeah, you can agree to disagree as to the means to effectuate those values. And this country used to share a lot of shared values. We used to especially have shared facts. We didn't have things like alternative facts. Now that's out the window, and therefore politics does become, it's more incumbent on everyone to view most issues as politically charged, because they are.
Yeah.
They are. That's the reality of what we're living in now. So, and there's still times I will not discuss politics if I'm at a party at someone's home.
Sure.
I'm not going to talk politics. I'm not going to be that person. But in most instances, no, because it affects our society, because we no longer seem to have a shared set of fundamental core values of what it means to be an American. And, therefore it becomes incumbent upon us to advocate for our values. Not so much our politics, but our values. It comes down to values, and it comes down to, as I said before, it's really at its core a fundamentally moral issue. And I don't think that fundamentally moral issues can be compromised.
Yep. And I think that's when it comes down to how we get through this. Okay, Captain. How we get through this is based on it really comes down to us being willing to find our way back to those fundamentals. We have lost those fundamental agreements as a society. Or certain groups of people have made it so everything is part of their fundamentals, and forgetting the fact that that's not how a fundamentals work. Or are using their fundamentals in ways that is not, again, how fundamentals work. I've talked to people that we talked about fundamentals, and they say they believe in one thing, and then when I point something else out, they say but. I was like, well, it's not a but if it's a fundamental. That's the point. A fundamental is something that is required to be across board. So, like for here, it's all people, no matter your race, religion, gender, or identity, deserve rights, respect, dignity, and safety. That's the number one. That is the non-negotiable. And everything else I believe and say and do, I try and base off of that statement, that ideal, that non-negotiable. And if something I am saying, if I say something that goes against it, then it's not a non-negotiable at that point. It is a negotiable, because I'm not holding that line for every situation. And that's the problem we're dealing with. I got to jump off a little bit early. When I say a little bit, I mean like 5 minutes early. So Scott, do you want to do your thing?
Sure, and we'll make it a brief one again. Folks, we all know what to do with the little heart up there. Tap the little heart, tap on the boxes that are black. You get points, Mike gets points, but let's talk about the real issue here. We see what's happening on TikTok already. We see some creators who have been shut down, and it seems to be more every day. We now know who is running TikTok, and we know their political inclinations. The shroud has been lifted. We know what's happening. So what does all that lead to? If you enjoy this community, it no longer is a luxury. It now becomes a necessity for you to become more conversant with the tube of you and how to access information over there and how to access this community over there. Again, it's not a luxury anymore. We don't know what's happening. Things could change imminently. That's not scare tactics. That's the reality. We all know content creators who've been bounced off of here and who are not getting any play on their videos and things like that. There's advantages to you folks. Number one, the content. Mike has been talking about it. The content's very good. Lately, he's interviewing a lot of very interesting people who are running for office. They are engaging conversations. I think you'll enjoy them. If that's not your thing, fine. There's plenty of other content that Mike has created over there for you to listen to. And also watching the live over there. Try and get used to it a little bit. I know that we're all creatures of habit. I am 69 years old. I am the definition of creature of habit. I get it. I understand that. But even I'm going over there a little bit more, trying to get used to it, trying to interact with the community. It's important, folks, and soon it might be vital. So please just spend a little bit, make a mental note to yourself to spend a little bit more time over there, both to watch the content and to engage with the community, because there could come a time, maybe very soon, where that becomes a necessity.
Thanks, Scott. And I mentioned it before, and I keep mentioning it because it's this big of a deal. I am reaching out to every progressive candidate running for office that wants change. I say progressive because I think I've had people ask, they're like, will you talk to a conservative? In the end, do they align with my fundamentals? Do they care about humanity? Do they want to fix the problems that are going on in our country? If they do, I'm willing to talk to them. I just don't think we're going to find any of that. That being said, the reason I'm talking to hundreds upon hundreds of people and I'm doing this every single day is it's that important. And I can only tell you, I can only try and show you how important it is by putting in the amount of work that I'm putting in. So if you can see that and agree with it, I would also appreciate you helping by watching and sharing and interacting with the content so it can get pushed out to more, because the more visibility what I'm doing can get means the more visibility that the people that I interview can get, and the more chance, the better the chance that those people will get name recognition, and we can get them in office, and we can start heading in the direction that we need to stop things like what are happening now from continuing. So again, thank you for everyone that's up here. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the gifts, and the new membership on the tube side. I appreciate you guys so much. There's a lot of really cool things going on that are coming in the future, and I'm looking forward to being able to keep taking this journey with all you guys. So you guys are amazing just the way you are, and I love you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to sing, laugh, dance, smile, do something that makes you happy. I'll see you guys in the morning. Bye, guys. Goodbye, YouTube. Love you guys.